Order. I call the Honourable Minister, Stephen Joyce, and inform the Minister that he has approximately 9.5 minutes and the bell will go with 2 to go.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here this afternoon as the final speaker for address and reply debate. And I have listened to the debate with great interest, pretty much all of it, Mr Speaker, every minute of it. And I've noticed, I have to say, quite a bit of what might be called more than moderate inconsistency on the other side of the House, Mr Speaker. More than moderate inconsistency. And this is the other side of the House that demands, on the one hand, jobs, 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 which is right, but then they say you can't do anything, Mr Speaker. You can't do anything which would create jobs. You can't do that. They can't build that there. You can't explore for that. You can't invest in property here. You can't invest in this country, Mr Speaker. Those are the things that the opposition is saying. So on the one hand, they're saying more jobs, on the other hand, but don't do anything. Whatever you do, don't do anything at all. And very quickly, if we followed that prescription, Mr Speaker, we'd be limiting our options once more, pretty much as the previous government was doing back in 2008, when they finally got down to only 2 things they could do to create jobs, Mr Speaker: subsidise them and train people. That was the end of it. Subsidise people and train them. That was all they could do. So they had the whole economy down to 2 things because they were the only 2 things they were prepared to accept, as various elements of the Greens and the Labor Party said, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. The reality, Mr Speaker, is you can't build an economy if you're
Point of order. Point of order. The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I came down from my room after I counted you being addressed 7 times.
No, okay.
Since I've been in the House,
member will be seated. There's been a Speaker's ruling on that made recently, and the Speaker actually has the right to decide what happens. I call the Honourable Minister Stephen Joyce.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So the reality is...
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, the Speaker's rulings have been very clear. When people are addressing the Chair, they do not use the word you because it involves the Speaker in debate. This Minister has now done it 11 times.
Member will be seated. As I mentioned, there has been a new Speaker's ruling, and that decision is taken by the Speaker. It was made in 2008. I call the Honourable Minister Stephen Joyce.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The reality is that it is impossible to build an economy if you...
Point of order. I've made the ruling, Mr Mallard.
Well, Mr Speaker, that ruling has been subsequently overruled by Mr Speaker, Dr the Honourable Lockwood Smith, who has ruled that members should not address the Speaker, should not use you because that is the Speaker. I have heard him do that, sir, this year.
Well, and all I can say in that case then is that I ask the member to continue his speech and try to keep within the standing orders.
No references to sheep of any kind, Mr Speaker. From
order. The member must not comment. The member must not comment on any speaker's ruling. The member's out of order. I call the Honourable Minister. I call the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, I think calling yourself a sheep is totally inappropriate.
Frivolous interjections designed to break up a speech lead to disorder. I call the Honourable Minister Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, the reality is that it is impossible to build an economy by lopping off both arms and both legs before one starts. We therefore need to stop the endless debate about which industry will save us and which industry we can no longer have in this country, and focus on all industries where New Zealand has a natural advantage. And sadly, Mr Speaker, the problem is with the opposition when they say they want jobs that they then go on and oppose everything. So let's look at some of the list of things that have been opposed by various members of the other side of the House in just the last little while. Making the most of our natural resources, improving transport linkages that people are prepared to pay for, building ultra-fast broadband, filming the Hobbit movies in New Zealand, having an efficient port sector in this country, having a mixed ownership model to reduce debt, building an international convention centre at no cost to taxpayers, accessing capital offshore, all those things, the opposition, whether it's the Labor, the Greens or the Mana Party, Mr Speaker, the new friends of the Labor Party, don't want those things to happen. We've been down this road before, Mr Speaker. It basically means slowing growth even further, and that's what this opposition is in favour of, Mr Speaker. The reality is New Zealand needs more and higher paying jobs, and this government is implementing a plan to do that, Mr Speaker. Jobs depend on businesses that are competitive, that sell things of value, that are unique or better quality, Mr Speaker, and that's what this government is encouraging with a whole range of policies that are encouraging businesses, Mr Speaker. Ideas and innovation policy with investing in science, investing in the opportunities to grow innovative businesses. Sorting out the capital markets, Mr Speaker. This government has done a huge amount in that space. Providing reasonable access to the necessary raw materials for business, Mr Speaker. Investing in skilled people to work in businesses, Mr Speaker. This government's very focused on that. The previous Speaker, the Education Minister, Heki Parata, numbering a huge number of things that we're doing in that space, Mr Speaker. Customers who want to buy our products, we're putting a big effort into export markets, Mr Speaker, and we're also investing hugely in public infrastructure, things like transport, ultra-fast broadband and the Rural Broadband Initiative. Those are the things you do, Mr Speaker, if we want more and better jobs for New Zealanders, and that is what is being done in this country. So what does the Labor Party propose, Mr Speaker? Well, so far not very much. Prior to the election, their plan was to tax everything. They were going to have a complex capital gains tax. They were going to tax every business, every farm, and $1.8 million KiwiSaver accounts, Mr Speaker. They were going to have a new top tax rate. They were going to strengthen the ETS scheme. They were going to have a $15 an hour minimum wage. They were going to have industrial, all these extra costs on businesses, Mr Speaker, and yet they have the temerity now to claim they want more jobs. Actually, Mr Speaker, we're not sure what they believe in right now. Nobody knows anymore. Apparently, Mr Speaker, they have a new leader, but nobody knows what he thinks. He can't land on a position, Mr Speaker. He hasn't been seen to offer an opinion, Mr Speaker. He's wandering around in an aimless daze, Mr Speaker. Dreamy Dave, they call him. No thoughts of his own. A backstory with no front story, Mr Speaker. That's what they're saying about the new leader of the Labor Party being desperately spun by his own staff as being a deliberate blank page. A deliberate blank page, Mr Speaker. Tricky plan. As they search around for something for him to say, and they've come up with something, Mr Speaker. I saw it in an article last weekend. You don't wear your guns on the outside, Mr Speaker. That's the news from the leader of the opposition. But he's only one of their grand strategists, Mr Speaker. They have other strategists. They have David Parker, or Denying Dave, who actually, Mr Speaker, is desperately trying to pretend that the GFC and the Canterbury earthquakes didn't happen, wanders down the House most days and says, why is the government not pumping up credit the way we did back in 2008 when I went trumping with Auntie Helen and we did all those things, Mr Speaker? Well, that as time has passed, and desperate Denying Dave has missed his chance. He's got nothing of relevance to say in 2012. And then there is Dark Dave. Then there is desperate Dark Dave, the K. Rudd of the New Zealand Labor Party, sitting there on the opposition benches, desperate to have another go, Mr Speaker. And actually, Mr Speaker, he exhibits the only signs of Labor's growth agenda, Mr Speaker. It is true to say that David Cunliffe is the only member of the opposition that's showing any signs of a growth agenda, and that's his lovely new beard, Mr Speaker. It's a little theatrical, not a lot of substance. It also lacks...
Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Order.
Mr Speaker.
Order. Order. Now, points of order will be heard in silence. Chris Hipkins, but it better be a point of order.
It is indeed, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, when the Minister started his speech at 18 minutes past, he was told he had 9.5 minutes to go, so his time should have finished about 30 seconds ago.
Order. The Speaker is the sole determinant of time, and I have the time. The member has 21 seconds remaining. The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
There's so much more to say about Desperate Dave, Mr Speaker, and his lovely facial hair. All I can say is I hope he hangs on to it, because it's the only sign of an economic growth agenda that this opposition has, Mr Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reality is you can't yell for jobs, 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 but then oppose every means by which growth can be achieved in the New Zealand economy. If you do that...
Order. The member's time has expired. The question now is that the amendment in the name of David Shearer be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The noes have it. Party vote is called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Māori Party.
3 votes opposed.
Mana.
1 vote in favour.
Act New Zealand. United Future.
1 opposed.
The ayes are 57, the noes are 64. The motion is not agreed to. The question now is that the motion that a respectful address be presented to His Excellency the Governor-General in reply to His Excellency's speech be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. No. The ayes have it. A party vote is called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
3 votes in favour.
Mana.
1 vote opposed.
Act New Zealand.
1 in favour.
United Future.
Vote in favour.
The ayes are 64, the noes are 57. The motion is agreed to. Address from the House of Representatives to His Excellency Lieutenant General the Right Honourable Sir Jerry Mataparai, Chancellor and Principal Knight Grand Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Principal Companion of the Queen's Service Order, Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief in and over the realm of New Zealand. Your Excellency, we, the House of Representatives, thank you for the speech addressed to us when you opened this 50th Parliament. We assure you that the matters referred to in your speech will receive our careful consideration. Ko te tū manakone, kia mahi tahi tātou katoa. The question is that the address be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote has been called for. The clerk will conduct a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes in favour.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes opposed.
Green Party.
14 votes opposed.
New Zealand First.
8 votes opposed.
Māori Party.
3 votes in favour.
Mana.
1 vote opposed.
ACT New Zealand.
1 vote in favour.
United Future.
1 vote in favour.